Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a 2016 Chevy Cruze Limited. I think it has a 1.8 liter in it. Ecotech, kind of a not great car, but whatever, good economy vehicle. Needs a new thermostat. It's not holding temperature. Fuel mileage is horrible right now. I keep having to reset the code for the computer to make the fan stay off and the air conditioning work. So essentially, the thermostat housing is that part right there with that sensor in it. It's attached to the other part of the housing. So we're going to have to pull off whatever this thing is here first, pull some wires out of the way, and get at that housing with 4 bolts. So stay tuned. I'm not really sure what this is, but I think there are 3 13mm nuts or bolts that hold it in. One up here, one over here on the side, and one down bottom. Hopefully when I pull this off, it doesn't have negative consequences. It seems like an awfully robust bracket just for whatever this sensor is. But it is coming loose with that. I don't see any oil coming out. I'm not sure what this part is. We'll find out together. Sounds kind of spring loaded. I don't know what this piece will be. Looks like some sort of air pump for the emissions. Okay, there's one not taken out. Sorry, these are bolts. And if you don't have a good angle on the camera now, I apologize. Okay. There's the second bolt. About 2 inches long each. And then there's a third. This is the most robust bracket. If all it is holding this little, whatever this air pump, secondary air pump, whatever it is, on, I'll be shocked. Okay, I'll remove this connector as well. Okay, well, something there. So there's a gasket in there. So this must take exhaust gas and recirculate it around, I guess. So anyway, that's that part there, if you can see. Just keep it out of our way for now. And again, that gasket was in between that, so we'll have to make sure we get that on later. I'm sure we'll have an oil leak. To pull this, okay, there's a couple connectors here we can pull off just to get out of the way. This camshaft position sensor, I think this gray part comes unlocked, I believe. There we go. That insulation is just crumbling there. Hopefully it doesn't cause issues later. This connector here will actually pull out of the bracket. So take a screwdriver in the back, push down 1 finger at a time from the top and bottom, and then pull it out like that. We can leave it connected for now, just out of the way. One more connection down here, the sensor that goes actually on the thermostat housing. Looks like we have maybe a 10mm down here to pull off. Not sure what all you can see with this camera angle. It's daylight out. So this 10mm right here will pull this bracket off, and that should give us pretty clean access to the 4 bolts that actually hold the housing on. That's just a nut. There's that bracket here. The wires for the most part are up and out of the way. These thermostats are notorious for being just garbage. Get the spring clamp off and out of the way. I'm sure this hose will be, that's already starting to leak around there. So okay, the catch pan's on there now. This hose is going to make a mess here. Car wasn't perfectly cold, so it's going to leak a little. We'll take this hose and try and pick it up here. I'll get a bungee cord to hold that up. Go ahead and look at these 4 10 millimeters out of here. That wasn't very tight. That one was a little tighter. That was pretty loose. And the last one, not very tight either. This has been replaced once. I can tell the name on the top of this part, or the company name, says Moto Rad, not AC Delco. So. I'm working outside today. It's a nice day. So sorry about the wind noise, if you're picking up on that at all. Yeah, this bottom right one's a bit of a pain. And I just said, I was going to say don't drop it, and then I just dropped it. I have to fish that one out. Alright, so since this leaks fluid out, I'm going to try and swap this in quickly. Actually, it's not leaking. There's the old one, there's the new one. It's pretty much flattened out there. The new one is obviously raised up. Get this back in here and get a couple of these screws started. Actually, I want to find the other missing screws. It's team, we're going to find it. So I'm going to put these 4 screws back in. I did find that one. It didn't fall that very far, so. And lower right, it's tough to get a good angle on it. I'm going to need a swivel head to get a good angle at that one. Man, it's slippery from antifreeze. It's tough to tighten these by finger. Okay, 1/4 inch drive works better, because they have their coolant lines or power steering lines coming down here that are just making it a little off angle for the 3/8 drive with a 1/4 inch. Obviously, smaller diameter extension seems to work just fine going in here. Okay, I need to go too hard on these, but seems like you tighten that in until the metal contacts metal, and that kind of squishes the O-ring completely. Hopefully it doesn't leak when it's all said and done. First thing I'll put back is this hose. Surprised that as soon as I released the clamp, it started leaking a little bit. So this clamp is really doing a lot to keep this fluid in here, which I don't like. So the hose should be pretty tight on there itself. But if it doesn't leak, it doesn't leak. So hose is back on. Feels secure. Put this separate connections back on. One goes there, one goes back into the. Push that gray part back in to lock it in. Let's see. Okay, next will be put this bracket back on here. So there's an alignment hole up top here on the housing for the coolant housing. Bottom one will go for the 10 millimeter. No, buddy, I have to be the one riding the dirt bike for you to be on, okay?
I want to go on the running down.
Okay, we'll see. Okay, the bracket's back on there. That means this connector back on, but actually we're going to try and put this housing back on here, this air pump or whatever it is, back on first. So, like so. It goes in like that. So I have to take one of these bolts, just one of the easy ones to get to maybe the outside left one, put that through, just so we don't lose alignment with that shim or gasket. Sorry, not shim, gasket. Your car may not have this on here at all, honestly. Okay, so I got 2 of the 3 bolts that hold this air pump or whatever it is, and so I'll put the 3rd one in now. Hopefully without dropping it. These weren't crazy tight either. I'm sure there's a torque spec somewhere you could find. But it's aluminum housing, it's aluminum block. I'm not going crazy. If I find a leak later somehow around this gasket, then I can just make it tighter then. It's pretty easy to get to these 3 bolts. Okay, and the last thing I didn't show you before, but is installing this hose right here. To get this hose off, you just grab the sides here and squeeze it. You'll see there's kind of like jimping around the outside. That'll be where you squeeze it. So to put it on, when you just squeeze it all, you just push it on. Get it wrong. Okay, clipped on there. So that was complete. Took about 25 minutes, a half hour tops, and that's the extra time it takes to make dumb videos that nobody watches. So there's the old one. Like I said, this O-ring is completely flattened out. It wasn't leaking. Again, hopefully the thermostat will hold the temperature properly, and I can get rid of the check engine light that comes on and turns off my air conditioning, and actually have a car that runs a little better fuel economy. Okay, it's always good to have an empty one of those after you're done with a project. And what we'll do is we'll open that top. I'll have to run it a bunch and get that water to circulate and pour some more in there, hopefully get the air bubbles out. I'll also open the vent on the radiator on this side here to let the water flow through also. Okay, so that plastic part in the right hand side of your screen is the vent for this radiator. So with a long flathead screwdriver or a socket, I think it's a 13, you can loosen that up, and that will loosen up until you get air out of the system, and antifreeze, once that stuff starts to flow out, you can close it. I'll try and show you when I pull the camera back up where that is. So here's the the right front part of the car, and back behind down in there is where it is. Okay, I think we're done bleeding it out. Had to run it for maybe 10-15 minutes to cap off. I'll make sure the air bubbles stop coming up. In this Chevy Cruze, that's right about where the temperature gauge should read. Bled it out for a while, have good hot heat. You want to make sure the heat coming out of the registers is hot. That kind of helps you know that there's not an air bubble trapped in there somewhere. Sometimes, like I had to do, you had to rev up the engine for a while and hold it up at a higher RPM just to get that water pump flowing. It kind of forces air bubbles out a little more. So anyway, this car should be good to go down the road. All right, thanks for watching. Take care.